What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Old English D, a Detroit Tigers podcast. As always, I am one of your hosts, Kasey, alongside Josh. How are we doing this week, Josh?
Kasey, doing pretty good, pretty fantastic.
Yeah, as a recording note, we're actually recording on Sunday evening this time around, and Tigers took 4-2, nope, 2-1. Sorry, I was thinking of the last game. 2-1 win against the Guardians, and they took the series. And honestly, that might be the only positive thing we have to talk about today. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It was a fine week of baseball. We saw some competitive games. We'll put it that way. But before all that, how was the rest of your week?
Pretty good. Not really a whole lot to talk about. Work.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't think there was much for me of note. I looking forward to this long weekend. I'll say that. I know Memorial Day it's one of those holidays that kind of creeps up on you, but we both have some obligations to tend to. So we're going to go ahead and record on the Sunday evening, which probably works a little bit better with our schedules. But yeah, so getting right into it, the Tigers are now 17-29,
Almost to
drawing.
20 wins. Almost to
Yeah,
20 wins.
drawing us literally what I was just about to say. Do we hit 20 wins before we have 30 losses? The likelihood is very small.
Yeah, it doesn't look very promising on that front, but
No,
I
not at
think
all.
20 wins by the end of the week isn't a stretch.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair bet. We have quite the schedule ahead of us, but we'll get to that later. Looking back at this week, we had a series loss against the Twins, as we do. That series was pretty ugly, as predicted. We did take one game from them, but you know, kind of cut your losses on that one. And then, surprisingly, we did get a series win against the Guardians. Now, little asterisks by that. We did have a postponement. These postponements are adding up. We now have a doubleheader July 4th, which is actually going to be pretty cool, I think. That might be a game to bookmark and go to. Are we home for those games on July 4th?
I literally just pulled up the schedule
I
here. I'm
feel
going
like
to
we
take
should
a
be because
peek.
if that's the case, I mean, typically when they try and reschedule doubleheaders, they do it, same home field advantage and stuff. So
We are
yeah,
home.
whew, that might be a day to go. I've been trying to like pinpoint. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to a couple games in August, with a buddy of mine actually in Cleveland. But like it's been tough to want to spend money on these tickets. But like last year, you and I went to a game. I went to like four other games. It was a great year last year. And this year, whew, not so sure. But what are some of our takeaways from the series loss against the Twins and the series win against the Guardians?
Um, the pitching continues to impress me. You see a team that's 17-29 and you think that it's going to be terrible all around, but no, this pitching staff is still, I think, it's either seventh or eighth best by ERA in the league. And that just speaks to how terrible the offense has been. But the team, the pitching staff has been good despite the, you know, cacophony of injuries that they've had. And I don't know. I don't know. You never know what offense is going to show up, but it seems like you always know that it's going to be at least a half decent pitching effort at the very least.
Yeah, I mean they're cobbling together some games, and it's all on the backs of the pitching, and maybe Harold Castro. Um, but yeah, I mean we'll get into it a little bit too. But I mean like every injury that comes across, it seems like every single one of these pitchers needs to be bubble wrapped at this point. But I mean, if this team could hit just a little bit, I feel like we'd be very close to a 500 ball club. But for some reason, they just look all so dejected at the plate, and no one is contributing. Minus, I mean, I think Miguel Cabrera and Harold Castro have a combined like 400 batting average, and who knows what their OPS plus is. But I mean, like it's a problem when you're, you know, at this point 20-year veteran and your sometimes bench player, sometimes homer and Harold is carrying the offense. There are way too many good names on this ball club to have it be all on them. And honestly, it's kind of sad. And I think, taking like a step back, who are we, worried about most on the offensive side?
So I think a big temptation, especially for me, is to look at the bigger names when it comes to the offense and to point fingers at what's going on. The thing that I keep going back to, and I'm thinking specifically of Javier Baez, but the thing about it is this is kind of, not to this extent maybe, but this is a little bit of the status quo of how he hits, how he approaches things. He's leading the league in chase rate right now, and you would hope that he would be able to do a bit better, but it's not been happening so far. He's chasing quite a bit, and he's struggling. So I know a big temptation for me would be to be like, yeah, it's Javier Baez. He's been awful, and he has been. But I think that the way he hits, I mean, he's going to be a little streaky.
It's still exciting to watch the play.
I
every
mean,
time every time he takes a swing and like he hits the ball anywhere, I'm like, oh, here we go. Because it jumps off the bat. I mean, it really does. Obviously, it hasn't translated to anything statistics wise, and I think he's batting sub 200 at this point. But he's still fun to watch. He still is possibly an exclamation point.
Yeah, I think my biggest question mark for this team is Jeimer Candelario. Now he's
kind of showing up though sometimes.
As of late, maybe the last month he's improved a little bit. I think we would have a little bit better of opinion of him had he had a better first 2 weeks of the season. I think that bad slump he had to start the year has definitely skewed our opinion of his season when he's hitting down high 100s, low 200s. But if he can't continue to hit well and even hit a fraction of the way he did last year, I have some serious questions about him because he's not knock you over great at third base. He's an average defensive third baseman, I would say, and he makes some questionable throws over to first, and you just wonder, with third base being such a premium position in Major League Baseball, could a Tigers team that's wanting to compete do better if he's not performing up to snuff? I think they can. I mean, you think of all of the great third basemen in the league, and the ceiling is so high. I mean, like Nolan Arenado, guys like that. Like, you have such a high bar when it comes to that position, and Candy's not been meeting that. So I would have a question about him specifically, but what do you think?
Here's my thing on Candy, and I know it's a little bit of an appeal to tradition, but I mean, you're talking about Tigers Player of the Year 2 years running. I mean, he's an established name on this ball club at this point, whether we like it or not. And I mean, yeah, I think up until halfway through last year, probably, and specifically, I remember a very seminal moment for him last year was the home run in the Seattle game where Turnbull threw the no-hitter. That game really looked like he turned a corner after that, and really as did the team. But he has proven himself, and he's proven he can come back from situations like this. I do think that he'll have a better second half. Now, will he have a great second half? I don't know. I do think that, like, as soon as you start counting out Jeimer Candelario, he starts putting some good swings on the ball. And, I mean, that does translate to a couple home runs this week, and that it's big, but I mean, obviously, is there any longevity in it? I don't know, but I'm not so worried about Jeimer. I'm really worried about Robbie Grossman, though. Really worried about Robbie Grossman. I think this guy is. I mean, and I should look up his on base percentage because that's like what he's known for. And in my heart of hearts, I want to believe that it's much worse. He's batting below 200. I know that. But if we go to Baseball Savant or even Baseball Reference and we look up Robbie Grossman, I'm just curious what his on base percentage is for the year, because I can't imagine that it's what it used to be. His on base percentage. Okay, it's still 313, which I mean is fine when you're batting 200. I guess that's still, typically you want like 100-point spread between those things. So he's still getting on base.
For this Tigers team, it's not awful.
True, but 0 home runs. He has a total of 10 RBIs. He has 6 extra base hits because he has no home runs. He has 6 doubles and obviously no triples. But he, as a leadoff, his OPS plus, the stat that we love most, he is 69, which again, 100 is the benchmark. I'm worried because he's supposed to be the guy on the leadoff spot that's like supposed to jumpstart the offense. And time again, he just is. His at-bats don't look as good as they used to. Now, there's a point to this, and we'll kind of get up to speed on this in the injury updates, but he was taken out of the game today with neck spasm. So there could be something going on, like on the background with him specifically, but he just doesn't look like the same dude that he was last year. I'm not necessarily just basing it on average because he only batted a 239 last year. I'm just kind of doing the eye test on him, and he doesn't look like he's in the same place, at least mentally, that he was last year. Now, what is that? A lot of that could be the start the Tigers are on, or at least the run the Tigers are on. For reference sake, we are 1 game out of the worst record in baseball. The Cincinnati Reds have that. And technically it's 2 games because there's 2 games in the loss column. But the Reds are coming off a series win off the Giants, and they almost swept them today. The Reds are getting better. The Tigers are playing at least 500 baseball the last couple of weeks. I think we need that spark plug. And last year it was Baду, and we don't have that this year. And Robbie was a great catalyst. He's not been that this year whatsoever. And if you're going to keep on putting him at the top of the order, which AJ, more power to you, that's fine, but he's got to start producing. I loved it. We actually got a nice peek at Jeimer Candelario leading off today because he replaced Robbie Grossman in the DH spot. And I actually really, really liked it. I think that was one of my takes from early in the year. I don't know if I said it on the pod, or I know I said it to you at one point, but I actually really like Jeimer leading off. I think he could be it would be a good nice switch up for him to swap places with Robbie. But
we always think of him as, and I think it's just been because of necessity, but we always think of him as a power hitter or even just like a gap to gap guy that he wouldn't go well in the leadoff spot, or at least that was my line of thinking with him. But I completely agree with you today. I know he subbed in for Robbie when he went out, but he looked great. I was not expecting him to look that great. And obviously the home run's going to make you feel quite a bit better about it.
Right,
but
right. Something important to note too, and I think it's important that we both picked veterans on this, on this kind of take. The obvious answer might have been someone like a Torkelson, or might have been someone like a Willie Castro or something like that, which Willie's slowed down quite a bit this last week. But I think what's keeping Torque around, just as a note, he is so good defensively. This kid can pick anything. And if you can catch like 9 out of 10 wayward baseballs from Javier Baez, because he's going to throw it everywhere, more power to you, dude. Yeah, you can be mediocre at the plate for now. Like, I mean, you got to turn it up eventually, and maybe it won't happen until next year. But like, honestly, I'd give him like an A+ defensively. He's been a godsend over at first base, and it made me wonder. I'm wondering if anything had to do with it. I know it's a little bit of a non sequitur, but just something I thought about today. Like, a lot of people complained that he was learning third base when we drafted him. and the Tigers drafted him as a third baseman / first baseman, which was caught us all off guard. But they had him go to
They
third
were
base.
very specific about that.
Right. And they had him go to third base and probably learned a lot of defensive skills that now obviously a third base experiment done, but I wonder if it's made him a better first baseman. So I don't know who made that call. I don't know who did it, but he is clearly exceptional at first base. And I don't think that was really on the scouting report for Torkelson. We all knew about the bat. We all knew about the patience at the plate, but I didn't know that he was this good on the other side of the ball. He's been like prime Miggy over there. But
I'm currently trying to pull up his defensive run saved and trying to find defensive run saved on Fangraphs.
You'll probably be disappointed by it.
Well, right, but I'm
curious
to see how he stacks up. I know.
Well, when you find it, let me know, and you can interject. But
sounds good.
As a new week comes to a close, we have more injury updates. I would feel like these ones are actually more on the minor side, except for some disturbing news about a couple rehab assignments that went south. But Grossman, as I said earlier, he did leave the game today with neck spasms. A little concerning. We'll see if he plays. Miggy also left last night's game, and he didn't play today. It seems like he had some cramping or some soreness in his lower back. It's typical. It happens to Miggy. I'm not too worried about it, but we'll see if he gets another day off tomorrow. And then, Josh, what is this team when we get very, very worried about Elvin Rodriguez when he starts cramping up? Like, what is this pitching staff that we're concerned about? Honestly, he's probably like the sixth string to come from Toledo, and we are all praying that he's okay. He threw a couple warm-up pitches, and it was sad too because he was in line for the win. The Tigers were up 1-0, and fifth inning, he's done with his warm-up pitches, and something grabs him in his leg. Seems like it was just some lower body cramping is what they're calling it, but that could be anything. It doesn't sound too serious. But still, it's just so funny that Elvin Rodriguez, we're all worried about him. Any thoughts on those couple injuries?
Yeah, I mean, Elvin Rodriguez, it's so tough, dude, because his injury is tough because on one hand, it could be minor cramping, which is what they were saying, or it could be, he tore a muscle and out for the year. So the injuries.
I feel like they would have said that though. They were like, I mean, I know he's under further analysis, but I feel like if it was that drastic, they would have probably said something. I don't know.
We've already covered how clear the Tigers have been on injuries.
That's
this year,
true.
So I
That's
don't know that we need to give them too much credit there. But it feels like you said, the injuries this week pretty minor. I don't think they're. I'm gonna try to say that again. I don't think they're particularly concerned about Miguel Cabrera. I think that's just an age-related ailment for him. I think that he'll be okay. It's just probably need to give him a couple days rest. Let him get his back in order. He's had some back issues before, so I think they're just giving him a little bit of time. Robbie, they said they gave him some sort of, I think it was like hypersonic.
They give him the cortisone.
I don't know about that. I have some questions about that because not only did they pull him unceremoniously, but they also didn't say anything mid-game.
Yeah, we got an Elvin update on Twitter
very quickly.
Yeah, before we got a Robbie Grossman update, which came from AJ post-game.
I thought that was a little odd. So I'm probably most concerned about Robbie just because we don't know a whole lot. I tend to think that Elvin's is probably just some sort of muscle related, maybe cramping. That's what it looked like anyway. That's what I do when my muscles start to cramp up is I just, you shake that leg out, try to loosen the muscles. And
clearly
I don't know. Well, it seems like whenever something's happened with a pitcher on the mound this year, their default is let's not make this any worse than it already is because we're already struggling. So that would be my take. I'm really, really tired of these weekly injury updates because we're
It,
adding to the list every single week. We're not.
yeah, it's going to keep on going. It's going to keep on happening.
Have we celebrated a successful return to a lineup yet? I mean,
No.
Robbie obviously came back and Javi very early in the year, but
Yeah.
that's it, dude. That's been it. And
Yeah.
I texted you earlier when Elvin came out. I'm like, what is happening? I've never in any sport at any year ever seen something this ridiculous. Like it seems like every single game at this point we're texting back and forth about who left the game with an injury. It's getting to just hilarious levels of pain for this team. I don't know how else to
Yeah, I
describe
mean,
it.
at this point, it's like not even a surprise. It's like, oh, yep, here we go, another another injury. And I mean, I think specifically to the pitching staff, I think that's where we are most like. For instance, Dallas Keuchel was DFA'd from the White Sox this week, and I mean, yeah, probably not a smart pickup, but I literally had a moment. I'm like, should we just pick him up? Like, he's not gonna be the I think he's signed currently like a 3-year, $55 million contract. They obviously had to pay him out of that, so like signing him wouldn't be exorbitantly expensive, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but he sucks. But he's just another body. Like, we just need an arm that can kind of throw the ball over the plate. Dallas Keuchel has some kind of leverage because he's a Cy Young winner, and I feel like that he might be able to help a team down the stretch. I don't think it's the Tigers, but it it's a problem when we look forward to the 5-man starting rotation that we have, the names that we have going into the season, and now all but one are gone.
Dude, Aaron Sanchez got released from the Nationals today.
Now that might be a pickup that I actually would love. He had, well, one, he was pretty great with the Blue Jays, but that was a long time ago, completely different pitcher. But last year with the Giants, he had a couple really good games. And honestly, like, even if he just settles back down into a bullpen role, I mean, he could still throw. I like that idea right there. I don't know. I feel like the Tigers need to start getting kind of active on this waiver wire or these releases, because I don't see how it's going to go the other direction anytime soon. But on the positive note, we have a couple rehab assignments that began. Ryan Kreidler is already back from his. I mean, he had a whole broken hand, right? He had a hit by it wasn't just.
Well, he had surgery on his broken hand.
It was a whole broken hand. What is this guy doing playing baseball? I feel like that was 2 weeks ago that he had surgery. I don't know. More power to him.
Is his nickname
balling.
already Wolverine? Like, is that just predetermined at this point?
Something. I mean,
I'm minorly serious about that.
No, I know. He clearly had some healing powers or something, because I mean, he got up in his first pitch he saw, he roped a double. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see when we see him, because again, he wasn't really out of spring training. He wasn't going to make the roster. But I feel like if people like, Jamer keep on struggling, Scope keep on struggling, I don't necessarily think those are picks to like go down to Toledo, but they're obvious answers to like be on the bench for a game or two to give Kreidler at least a look. And then Riley Green, prodigal son, he is returning. He is in single A at the moment, the Flying Tigers, I believe. And he has a couple singles already. I know he went 0 for 4 in the first game. I think they're playing this one kind of slow on purpose. But at the same time, when you see people like Robbie Grossman, when you see people like Derek Hill and Daz Cameron, who are injury prone, Victor Reyes, they might be hurrying him up a bit with this rehab assignment. So when do you think we see, at the very least, Green? I don't know when we see Kreidler, but when do you think we see Riley Green? If you want to make a prediction on Kreidler, be my guest.
So I know I read, I think it was last week sometime, I know their plan as of before this weekend anyway, was to, I know Kreidler was in Toledo, and I think the plan for him was to just ease into that to that again, just to give him a chance to, reacclimate and kind of reevaluate from there. Green, I know they were planning on playing him maybe 2 games this weekend in Lakeland, and then tomorrow start him in AAA. So I think
AAA.
that
Wow.
was the plan as of this past weekend. Before the games, I don't know if anything has changed pending how he did in those Lakeland games. I don't know an update on it. I would assume that sometime either this week or this next weekend, he will make an appearance in AAA. If
What do
he
you
does
think? Like
not have some kind of setback.
the injury to Grossman accelerates it? Like what it like?
So here's the thing. That was their plan before. Their plan was for sure to have him in AAA before have him in AAA this next week before the Grossman injury. So I don't know that they're speeding him up. There's not a whole lot for them to speed him up to get to, if that makes sense. There's not a whole lot for him to come back to, you know? So I don't think that they're rushing him necessarily. They may be the master plan, maybe to have him in the big leagues by, you know, next weekend or the weekend after.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh.
I don't
Woo!
know. I
I think I texted you that. I see they both make an appearance on the Tigers by June 20th. Are you thinking that's like too liberal? You think that's too like non-aggressive enough? Like what
For
you think
Green,
it's
I would 100% agree. I think that might be even giving him
man.
too much time.
Wow.
Kreidler, and the main problem that I'm coming up with both of these guys, and really any of the minor leaguers position players that are doing well. I mean, you throw Cody Clemens in there as well. What kind of transaction has to happen? Because
I think Daz Cameron. Daz Cameron and Derek
so
Hill.
that's one thing. We don't know
Because
what
I mean,
the
right, correct me if you're wrong, he's already on the 40 man.
who is
But
that?
like
Oh, we're talking.
well,
Well, both of them are.
oh, but no, but they were each on the 60 day. Well, no, that's weird because they were on the Toledo injured list. So I don't
Let
know
me pull it up.
when you go on the Toledo injured list, like the minor league injured list. I don't know what that does to your 40 man. I don't know if you're able to find that answer, honestly.
Well, I'm going to see whether he's on the 40 man because I can, you can pull that up on MLB.
Yeah, I think the interesting one, I think it's Kreidler. I don't know who he replaces. I mean, like I think there's as crowded of as an outfield we have. I think Green is an upgrade. Period. And so they're going to make room for him, and it's time. And we need a spark for this team. But Kreidler, like I don't know if we see him immediately. I think he kind of still has some proving to do after this injury. I think he's done enough. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, if I'm Cody Clemens, I'm mad because like, are we saying Cody Clemens now gets shafted because Kreidler's going to come back and take his realistically his spot that would have been his. Again, I'm still holding on to it. I don't care. I love defense, and I think Torkelson's great at defense, but we need to hit. I think you do a mental reset for Torque down AAA. That's the move. You move if you're bringing Kreidler up. And I think that's more justifiable for Kreidler than it is Cody Clemens. But did you find anything on the 40 man?
Yeah, so I have the 40 man up here. The amount of pitchers that are on the injured list is just, it hurts every time I pull it up.
Yeah.
Outfielders, yeah. So Green is not on the 40 man.
Yeah. So they have to make a 40 man. And that's the more interesting one is who do they have to like DFA?
Kreidler is also not on the 40 man.
So that also makes that one a little bit more complicated because I don't know if they have a DFA move that they can make. We'll see. It's exciting at the very least because they're at least playing baseball and doing baseball activities. And again, Kreidler, I have no idea what he's doing near a baseball diamond after breaking his hand. It must have been like a clean break, and then they were just able to go in there. And
we even heard that he hit a home run off of Casey Mize in Lakeland, like 2 weeks ago.
He seems fine.
Right. Yeah. Like some parts of me question the injury. Like, was it really as bad as they were saying it was? Because
in surgery, you gotta have something wrong. But speaking of Kasey, we actually heard some news on one Casey Mize. It wasn't a lot of news, but we heard something that he's throwing from 60 feet. That's something that a major league starting pitcher needs to be able to do. So that's good. I'm really glad that that's the case. In all seriousness, I don't know when we see Casey. I don't know when he does another rehab start. And what's to say that like the next rehab start for him won't just end up like the last one, and then we're back to square one. I don't know. I wonder if we're just delaying the inevitable on Casey Mize, because we did that forever with the likes of Turnbull, Fulmer, and the list kind of goes on and on. But
Matthew Boyd.
Boyd, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It maybe just rip the Band-Aid off. I don't know. We'll see. It is nice to hear that he's not like having a lot of discomfort when he's throwing, but at the same time, then you add adrenaline, then you add intensity, then when you add pressure, I mean, that ligament snaps eventually. Just gonna say, like, I mean, that ligament's gonna snap eventually. Whether it happens sooner or later, we will see. But on the more concerning note, Matt Manning is now shut down indefinitely. I think the words were "quote unquote" came clean with some elbow discomfort, right? It was originally shoulder, and now it's tendonitis in his elbow. That doesn't sound good. So he's not throwing at all. Who knows if when we see Manning again? But he was on a rehab assignment, and he was probably realistically like a start away from coming back. And now he is shut down forever.
Yeah, so I'm a lot less fatalist about Mize. I know you are that way because he's your guy, and you just you get a bad feeling about him. I think this Matt Manning situation is a lot worse. I have some concerns, and I don't think I've mentioned this to you, but especially the last couple weeks here, I have some major concerns about Matt Manning as a major league player. And I don't know. I don't understand, because he got pulled from a rehab assignment in, I believe it was Toledo, because of dehydration, it turned out. As a major league athlete, your main job is to be prepared to be an athlete. And one of the main things to do with that is keeping yourself hydrated. Like, that's basic information. You hear about that in high school. Like, and it's not like your mom forgot to go down to Meijer and pick you up a Gatorade. Like, you're a major league athlete. You're being paid quite a bit of money for a minor leaguer because you're a first round pick and you can't hydrate. I don't know how much of that is on the Toledo staff or whoever's down there with him from the Tigers training staff. One writer, I cannot remember who this is, and I apologize if I butcher this, but somebody was saying that he was acting quite a bit hungover, maybe.
Whoa.
Which is a big concern. And then you hear this whole situation about him coming clean, about him finally admitting to some elbow discomfort. And I'm the first one to appreciate someone trying to work through an injury, somebody who's just trying to play through the pain and the grittiness. I love that in a player. But when it comes to a minor league player, a minor league pitcher, and their throwing arm, their throwing elbow, and hiding information about feeling pain in an elbow, especially in today's day and age where elbow injuries are pretty common, I have some big concerns about that from a very base perspective. Just that's not a very mature approach to any of this.
No, I mean, he's like, isn't he still like 22? I mean, he's still young. He's 22,
he's very young. He came out of high school.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still super young. I think this is a common trait among young minor leaguers. They don't really know what to do with all of the really it's power. Like it's kind of a power trip when you're a major league baseball player and the world's in front of you. Um, if he truly was like hungover and having some crazy Friday nights when he's on a rehab assignment, yeah, that's problematic. I think he has the highest ceiling of any of these pitchers. I mean, Tarek Skubal, he has realistically eclipsed his ceiling. So I maybe taking Tarek out of it, but like of the four big ones that we always talk about, Manning always had like the Verlander vibe. Every time we've seen him, we always want him to be that Verlander, but he never is. Like he's always in the 92s. He sometimes pumps up to 95, 96. But he doesn't have that power fastball, and his curveball has not been good. And he's had to develop a slider to even stay competitive in the majors. But I still think that there's a good pitcher in there. I really do. I don't know if there's a top of rotation pitcher, but I think this is definitely one of those instances where, you talk about it during draft season all the time where, oh man, are they going to take a high school pitcher? Are they going to take someone who is proven time and time again to either completely fall flat or sometimes 1 in a million chance they turn out to be fantastic? Maybe this one we struck out on because we haven't seen a lot from Matt Manning. There's still a lot of time for him to grow into something. But yeah, he hasn't panned out yet. And at this point, yeah, if he's covering things up about his injury, that's also a concern. On the Kasey note, what I will say, and I know it sounds fatalist, and I know it sounds probably a little dramatic, my viewpoint is I want Casey Mize to be the guy when we need him in Game 7 of the ALCS. That's not going to be this year. We don't need him this year. Just get the surgery, and so that when I'm just saying, like why not just and again, I don't even know if he I don't know if he needs it. I'm at this point. At this point, I'm kind of in the ballpark of every pitcher's going to need it eventually. But I mean, Verlander just had it, and he's 39. So I mean, why not rip the Band-Aid off now when we're bad and we're not looking to need him in a World Series or a playoff game?
So there's two things about that I 100%. I hear you on the if he needs it. If he needs it, then I think we can have the conversation. There's no way for us to know if he needs it or not. The second thing is you have to also take into consideration what he wants, because as a player, I think if you can rest, I know if it was me and if you said to me, hey, let's take 1, 2, 3 months, rest this, and we can have you pitching at the end of this year. Or, hey, we're going to toss you into a surgery. You're going to rehab for 9 to 12 months, and you won't be the same pitcher for another 2 years, maybe 3 years. You won't be back to your normal self, and then you'll be good for a long time.
Well, yeah, but what does a pitcher wanting have to do with anything? I mean, like, it's just
because it's his health. You have to take into consideration the person, the human being behind
it. That's great. And now we're stuck with a Spencer Turnbull who sits on the bench and is in Lakeland every other weekend, and we can't watch him pitch anymore. There's going to be a time when this team needs Casey Mize. There's going to be a time. And if he's not there when we need him most, we will look back on this moment and we'll be like, should have just done it. Because, yeah, it's a long process. Yeah, he can be pitching within a year and a half. That's fine. But everyone says, we've talked about it before, it's about 3 years for you to really feel like you start to have some meat behind your pitches again. I foresee this team being very good in 3 years. I really do, if some things go our way. I would much rather them take the risk now. And again, if he needs it, just do it when we don't need him. Screw what he cares about. I don't care. You're going to come back and contribute to a bad baseball team. Why would he even care? if I were in his position, I'd be like, no, I want to contribute to the good baseball team. I don't want to join this. We're okay. We're gonna delay this. I get it. He's a competitor. I get it. But I would look at this team and be like, we're gonna cut our losses.
You're thinking of it from a very uh, organizational point of view, and
That's how you
if
have to look at these things. It's a rebuild for a reason. You
okay,
have to look at it.
I understand that, and that's a fair point of view. I think the Detroit Tigers should take that view, but if you're Casey Mize, I don't think you're looking at it that way. That's just my opinion. I think we can definitely agree to disagree on the situation. I hesitate to make any sort of judgment on it without being in the room. If he needs the surgery, as a fan and as somebody looking at this with an even keel look at it, if he needs the surgery and they're giving him a choice, I think from the organizational standpoint that he needs to get it. I am 100% with you, but with all of those caveats, because his opinion does matter in this. You can't take that away from a human being. You can't say your opinion doesn't matter when it comes to your own body, because if he wants to make that decision, if he wants to make the decision to not get the surgery, you can't sit there and force him to. But all of that to say, definitely concerned, but I still think Manning is a lot more concerning.
Yeah, I think at the short term, for sure, absolutely. There's definitely some both elbow concerns and mentality concerns of Manning. Transitioning from the Major League Ball Club and some Major League conversation, as the team sits at 17 and 29, it's sometimes tough to find a whole lot of things to be excited about when it comes to the Tigers themselves. But this is a whole organization. And we have some minor leaguers who are doing some things down in the likes of Toledo and Erie. And I thought we would take this opportunity to point out some key contributors in the minor leagues. And for this week, and this might be like an ongoing topic, or we might just do like how the Toledo Mud Hens are doing or how the Erie Seawolves are doing. But for this week, I thought we'd just pick a couple players that have been standouts. And my pick this week, I'm going to be completely honest, I had never heard of this guy before, honestly, Friday night. I had never heard that this individual existed. His name is Kerry Carpenter. He plays for the Erie Seawolves, so he's in Double-A. And there's an article posted on the SB Nation blog, Detroit Tigers blog, Bless You Boys. The article is written by Trevor Huth, and a lot of my thoughts come from there. But this guy is hitting a 345. This is in 40 games, a 345 with now amended 16 home runs in just 150 at-bats. Now, this is all, of course, minor league pitching, and so you have to take it with a grain of salt. It never translates, as we see with torque, okay? It's completely different. But just to do a fun little experiment, how many Detroit Tigers would it take to get to 16 home runs total for them to even equate to what Kerry Carpenter is doing right now in Double-A Erie? I mean, you have the likes of, you would have to total up Javi, Austin Meadows, who has 0, Robbie Grossman, who has 0, Miguel Cabrera, Harold Castro, Willie Castro. I mean, we're not even at this point, we're not even at 13 or 14. And this guy has 16 home runs. I know, I get it. He is in the minor leagues and you can't just pull him up. The other problem is he's an outfielder. And so don't know if there's a lot of room for him, but he's making a case to at least be on the radar for a call up to AAA at the very least. But then also he's putting his name on a lot of people's radars as an organizational talent. He did a lot of swing approaches in the offseason. Looks like he's kind of taken the Josh Donaldson approach and looking for more loft, swing for the fences, was what they used to call it. But I mean, this guy last year in like 500 at-bats, he only had 15 home runs. He's already eclipsed that and surpassed it now in 150 at-bats. Clearly, whatever he's doing, clearly whatever trainers working with him, whatever hitting coach is working with him is doing a lot of good things. And something to be excited about, because when you hear people like Kerry Carpenter and not the Riley Greens or the Ryan Kreidlers or, the obvious choices. Like, oh, there is another level of minor leaguers that like we don't hear all the time, but they could also carry a team, because those are what make playoff teams real. Are those players, those fill-in players that just kind of fill in the roster. They're not the guy. They'll always be the guy, but they're just at the very least a contributing player. And Kerry Carpenter could be that in a couple of years' time. Who is your minor leaguer of note, Josh?
I'm going to go with a little bit better known player, but not for the reasons you might think. I'm going to go with Detroit Tigers pitcher Wilmer Flores.
The flow himself. The flow himself.
That name might sound familiar to you. That's because Wilmer Flores is also I believe he's an infielder for the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, he's a utility player.
And
the same Wilmer Flores
brother
that cried when he was traded. When he was initially traded, that was the famous scene with him on the Mets. He was on the field, and that was the big hug watch. He was traded, supposedly. I forgot what team, maybe the Braves or the Brewers or something. That trade ended up not happening. But yes, sorry, he is the brother of said crier of the trade, who now plays for the San Francisco Giants. They have the same name. Those family dynamics got to be kind of weird.
Yeah, one of those call one and see who shows
up. Which one shows up? I think, and I don't have proof of this, but I think there's a third Wilmer Flores too.
Yeah, I think we looked it up the other night. Yeah. I think there is a younger brother as well. This one, pitcher, and I for those who don't know, I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I live very close to the Fort Wayne Tin Caps ballpark here, and they're in the same Midwest League that the West Michigan Whitecaps are in. And I was really hoping that he would last in West Michigan so that I could see him down here in Fort Wayne. But he lit up the Midwest League like I've never seen a pitcher do before. I don't recall having seen a pitcher expose the entire Midwest League as badly as he did. He's made they called him up. He's made his Double-A debut. He did the same exact thing in Double-A. I mean, almost a carbon copy of what he's been doing in West Michigan. He did up in Erie. I have his stats for this minor league season. He has pitched 29 innings so far across two levels. He's 2-0. He has a 2.48 ERA. He has, like I said, 29 innings pitched. He has 49 strikeouts.
Jeez. In how many? 29
innings. He's averaging over 2 strikeouts an inning. And, that's great. You expect this guy to have the strikeout numbers. Typically, they don't have that great of control. They've just got some great stuff. How many walks do you think he has, Kasey, in 29 innings?
And this is what I was going to ask you. The stats like this are important for minor leaguers because the splits, while it may be ERA or whatever, and I think his ERA is great or whatever, these are what really translate into the majors. I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to say 5 walks.
You nailed it. He has 5 walks and 49 strikeouts. Oh, did you cheat?
No, I didn't cheat. No, I remember reading a stat line recently, and that was the number that stuck out at me. But yeah, 5 walks.
I mean, his whip is 0.3 or 0.931, excuse me. I don't know what his future looks like. He's 21. They signed him as an undrafted free agent out of junior college in Arizona,
which is also mind-blowing.
I don't know what his future looks like in this organization. Obviously, he just got called up to Double-A, so that's where they say the rubber meets the road when it comes to pitching is in Double-A. That's when the hitters really evolve and really start to try and figure people out. I am excited to watch this kid grow and develop. I think this kind of thing is huge. He has to continue it at Double-A for me to really believe in him as a future option. But I'm excited. He's a young guy. He's got a lot of years left. He's got a lot of chances left, and if he continues to show out like he has, I'm excited. I'm excited for sure.
What I'm most impressed about Wilmer Flores is the build. He does not look like a pitcher whatsoever. The dude is massive. He looks like a middle linebacker. And I think
6'4", 225 is what Baseball Reference has him at, which is, I mean,
he's starting for the Detroit Lions defensive line. The dude's electric when you watch him. He doesn't, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't throw very hard. He's sitting like 92, 93. And so it's just, he's dotting corners. What I love is one of his first starts with the Whitecaps, he has this that made the rounds where his hat fell off. And I mean, he has a bunch of hair. He has a lot of flow. That's why I call him the flow. He has a lot of luscious, long locks. And his hat fell off when he struck someone out. And I think it was really cool because it was like a curveball and he got him swinging. And he throws the pitch, whatever, hat falls off, and he just dips his head and he catches it in like the smoothest thing. And it wasn't necessarily the catch that was so cool. He put it back on his head. And it was all just like a motion that he's like practiced 50 million times. I'm like, this has happened to you before, dude. This clearly they need to find a hat that's a little bit tighter for you, but I'm here for it. That gif instantly made me fall in love with him. And yeah, as we're following him through the ranks, he is incredibly astounding to watch. Even more crazy that he went undrafted. We could have our next Tarek Skubal story, but even crazier because Tarek, I think, was taken like 20 rounds. Wilmer Flores was undrafted and he elected free agency. So I think we have a good one on our hands. Look out for those couple names, Kerry Carpenter and Wilmer Flores, sometime in the near future. Our around the league for this week. This one, I don't even know, dude. I don't even know where to begin with my around the league this week. Some kind of tussle happened between Jock Peterson and Tommy Pham, and it is the funniest thing ever. So if we rewind, at this point, I think it was Friday night's game, right? Friday's game. And like just before it came out, there were some weird things like Jock had asked the Cincinnati Reds to take Tommy Pham out of the lineup. And then it was weird because they actually did. And so like he got taken out of the lineup. We're like, what's happening? And then like as it kind of the story snowballs and we start hearing more and more things, then Jock Peterson's finally interviewed about it. Turns out Tommy Pham just went up and straight up Will Smith Jock Peterson in the outfield during warmups and slapped him across the face. And of course, Jock Peterson didn't take too kindly to this. But then the question is like, why? What happened? Like, what? I mean, Tommy Pham seems to be a little bit of a drama queen. Like, he's always a little dramatic, and he always has something to say about something. And Jock Peterson, same thing, Mr. Pearls from last year. Like, he hasn't been the same player this year, although he did just have a 3 home run game after sitting down.
The dude has a blonde bleached mustache.
Right. After sitting down with Barry Bonds, he magically hit a 3 home run game. I don't know what's going on there, but you know.
So he gave up the steroids. Oh, I see.
Right. But Tommy Pham goes up and just absolutely cold clocks him. And then we learn about what it's about. It's literally this whole diatribe from Jock Peterson about a fantasy football league that they're in together. And that Tommy Pham did something with the restricted list that was like not party rules or not house rules. And Jock got mad, and then Tommy got mad at Jock, and then just escalated the whole situation. And it's like in Jock, there's literally like video of him showing the text thread between the two of them. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is really, I'm of the mind that it's a complete joke. I think that they are just completely pulling the league's finger. Tommy Pham got a 3-game suspension for this, which is hilarious. I don't know. Maybe they're making like a prank on like the suspension stuff and like how it's just always seems to be just literally, oh, what do we feel like giving him this time? I I think it's hilarious. I don't know why this story has captivated the likes of Major League Baseball, but it is quite funny. And if Tommy Pham, he has said some things that like Jock Peterson said some bad things about the Padres organization, which Tommy Pham hasn't played for the Padres for like a year. And so it's like, well, okay, great. You now play for the Reds, dude. Like, who cares? This whole fight is hilarious, and I'm ready for the benches to clear because of it. Because it's next time they meet, at least, because the feud between Tommy Pham and Jock Peterson will forever live on. It's great. It's a great time.
If it was any other two people, I would be much more prone to like take this seriously and actually have a real hot take on it. Or but you literally have the guy that told reporters that he's literally in Cincinnati to get numbers and get paid. He literally said that to reporters. And you have, I don't even know how to describe Jock Peterson in one sentence. I mean, the guy's a clown. Clown might be a little harsh, but he's a character for sure. And
Eccentric.
them two being the ones that are involved in this, just you it's like you can't believe what you're hearing.
Right.
And then you see a video of Tommy Pham going up to Jock Peterson and open-handed slapping him in the face. Like, I don't know, dude. The fact that he got a 3-game suspension, I think, is probably the only thing of note in this whole conversation. Like, that's a whole conversation for another day in Major League Baseball, the whole suspension rules and or lack thereof and all of that. But dude, you and me laughed so hard about this. Like, there's nothing else you could do at this point. I mean, you have thing one and thing two doing their business over here, I guess. I don't know.
Where's Cat in the Hat? Where is he?
I don't
Oh,
know, dude.
that's Gabe Kapler. Oh, all right. What is your around the league for the week?
So we both have some very specific thoughts on the league's take the last 2 years to introduce the City Connect jerseys to Major League Baseball. We both have a very specific take on it.
Is that specific enough for you?
That was very specific, yes. The reason I bring it up is this week the Colorado Rockies announced / date. Well, I think they're about to debut them this next week, but they released what they look like, the images and the posing in them and everything. And I think they're fire. I think they look really good. I know that a lot of what Nike is claiming to do with these is to either accentuate what the city or state that they're in, the area, do something to bring that to more national attention, kind of highlight that, or to introduce something that is pretty niche for the area and to kind of accentuate that. I think they nailed it with these.
The Rocky ones are cool.
They're nice and green. They look like the Colorado license plate, and the hats are sick, and it makes sense. But I thought it would be kind of a fun conversation between you and me. And I know we've had the conversation before a little bit. Just kind of general thoughts on the whole City Connect jerseys and what it might look like when the Tigers get theirs next year. Because after the Rockies are done, so far this year, the Nationals have got them, the Astros, the Royals, the Rockies have gotten them. And then next up for the rest of this year, the Angels, Brewers, and Padres will get them the rest of the year. And it was announced that by the end of 2023, every Major League Baseball team will have one. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to break down what we think the Tigers should do for this, or what Nagy should do for the Tigers on this one, and whether we think it's going to be a complete failure or a smash hit, or what do you think about the Connect jerseys and the Tigers?
I think they're trying too hard, dude. Here's the thing. I think this round of them has been much better. This 2020 round of the or 2022 rather round of them. The 2021 jerseys, I don't know of one of them that was cool. I think they were all like I like the Wrigleyville ones, but apparently there's a lot of fan uproar about that like the Cubs have nothing to do with Wrigleyville. Like that's not like a name for Wrigley Field or anything. I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know. There was a lot of uproar about all of them, and it's just like my thing is just like why face the headache? Like I don't like. For instance, yes, the Rockies ones are cool. I don't know how Colorado fans feel about the Rocky ones. I don't know what the general uh, idea is behind them, or the general opinion is on them. But then we see, and we're assuming, right, because we saw them in the jerseys and they were doing the photo shoot. Then we see the Angels ones leak. And it's hilarious that they're leaking, but like they're just so plain and boring, and it's essentially just like their home jerseys. Like they change the font. Okay, cool. My problem is it doesn't seem like Nike, and I know they do this for other sports too, and they probably crash and burn in the other sports too. It doesn't seem like Nike like takes the time to like talk to like a team representative about it. They're just kind of doing it, and like these teams have people for this. They have marketing like whole departments that you could like reach out and talk to them like, hey, let's brainstorm something about. And I'm certain the Tigers are going to do some kind of Motor City thing, and it's going to be stark orange, and it's going to be the ugliest thing we've ever seen. I just don't understand why the headache. Like I don't understand. Like some of them are cool. The Astros ones, I think we talked about at one point, the space flight ones, kind of inspired by their space endeavors because they're the Astros. Uh, cool.
Well, and NASA is in Houston, Texas.
So. Thank you. I knew there was some connection I wasn't making there. Yes. Okay. Yeah. NASA's in Texas, in Houston. Those are cool, right? Those have a special place in my heart because I really wanted one of those hats. Colorado ones, again, cool, whatever. But like, then you just completely strike out with the other 10 of them. And it's like, what's the point? What's even the point? How much do these cost to make? Who's like, I don't know.
So my kind of take on I know you're not the biggest fan of the concept in general.
I just appreciate the Old English D. That's all. And I appreciate keeping that sacred. I know you don't like it. I know I wish, I hope, and I pray.
We've had this conversation before. I appreciate the Old English D. I don't want it to go away. I like it. The Detroit Tigers home jerseys are classic, and I think they should keep them around. I think that they need to spice up their jerseys. They have a home white and they have an away gray, and it's been that way forever.
Yeah, the away grays suck.
Yes, we both agree on that. They could definitely use a redo. I think if they introduced an alternate or maybe whatever their City Connect jersey is, if they have just something else to spice it up, whether it's home or away, I would appreciate that, at least the attempt. My whole thing on the City Connect jerseys is I think a lot of them were, I think Nike doesn't make enough of an effort to contact these teams, like you were saying, or just to get the general vibe of what's going on, especially with last year's. I mean, I could have missed a memo or something, but the Boston Red Sox jerseys are yellow, mustard yellow, and baby blue.
And the worst part is I actually kind of like those ones. I just like it for the laugh factor and like the pop factor. I don't actually.
It's definitely to catches your eye, but I don't know if there's a backstory that I haven't heard or what. But those ones didn't make any sense to me. It seemed like they were like, well, there's not really a mustard yellow team in the league that's that ridiculous. You have a lot of people like the Miami ones. I don't 100% get why it's red, but a lot of people like those ones. And then you have great ideas in ones like the Giants. The Giants ones are white and they're orange, but they put like clouds on them to represent the fog that happens in San Francisco, I guess. Cool. It just makes the jerseys look almost unreadable how it blends in with the actual jersey color. So you have some of them that look like they weren't thought out at all. And then you have some of them that look like they were a great idea to start with and just were poorly executed. My opinion is this year's ones. I haven't hated one this year. The Nationals cherry blossom jerseys I think are super cool with the pink and the gray. Like you said, the Astros ones look great. I actually learned something about Kansas City with the Kansas City Royals ones. Like it apparently it's a fountain city, and I asked my wife, who's from the Missouri Kansas City area, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's the fountain city." And I was like, I had no idea, but apparently
Those
it's
ones are pretty
actually
sick.
a thing.
Pull pull that
Those
up.
look cool. The logo on them looks really sick. We both like these Rockies ones. Jury's clearly out on these Angels ones that leaked. We don't know what actually is going on there, but I just want them to, Nike, I mean, do right by these teams, including the Tigers, in the next year and a half here. And I just need them to take their time, think everything through, and get the opinion of the teams. As long as they make an honest effort to do right by these cities, I think this is a great idea because baseball isn't known for alternate uniforms, really. I don't think. They're known a lot more for throwbacks, and I think that's a great idea. But for teams like the Tigers, who haven't changed their jerseys in forever, and for good reason, it's definitely difficult as a fan because you kind of want something to spice it up a little bit. I know you don't feel that way. You're very much a traditionalist when it comes to the Tigers jerseys, and that's okay. But I think that this is a great idea, but poorly executed all around by Nike and Major League Baseball. But that's my around the league. I don't mean to drone on about jerseys, which may seem kind of
No,
trivial, but
I'm ready to eat my words about it. I'll tell you that. If they come out and I have to buy a hat, I will be the first to tell everyone, and I will be the first to eat my words that I was wrong. But I don't know. I don't.
it seems like the
I
thing
hope.
that people mess up for the city of Detroit. We just kind
Right.
of have that Detroit versus everybody thing, and it seems like something that they're just going to completely mess up. But I understand.
I hope someone more creative than I comes together with the Tigers organization and says what would look good, and then puts that on the field. But we'll find out in 2023. Not in 2023. Another 5-game series against the Twins.
Oh man, any team but the Twins at this point.
This week we have another 5-game series against the Twins. This schedule is atrocious. I mean, I'm glad we're changing it next year, and a lot of it has to do with the lockout. I get it, and rainouts to this point too. But like, my goodness, I I, I have no words. And then we have 3 games against the Yankees.
In New
How do we
York.
think
In New York.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. How do we think the Tigers are going to fare this week?
So I was just looking today. It looks like the Twins have had some injuries themselves this last weekend. I know Gray went out with an injury, as well as, oh shoot, I'm gonna forget. They had another starting pitcher.
I know Paddock went out a couple weeks ago with Tommy John,
Well,
but
yeah. There's another starting pitcher. I can't remember which one went out with an injury.
Joe Bryan, not Joe Ryan.
I don't think
Their
so.
guy.
And then they called up Royce Lewis, and he got pulled from the game after colliding with a wall. So it looks like they're a little hobbled. I think, and this could be the optimistic one, the optimistic call here, but I definitely think we could potentially win this 5-game series against the Twins, especially them coming off of a tough weekend injury wise. I think if we've got a shot. Their games at home. We typically win at least one game, the first game of a double header this year. That's our talent. So I think winning 3 isn't out of the question. I can see a world where we win 4. I can also see a world where we lose all 5. So there's that. And if we can steal a game from the Yankees, who are playing some great baseball right now, I think they call that
I think they just lost the series against the Rays, which
did they?
Yeah, or they split the series. They didn't play
Okay.
the best baseball. But I mean they're still the Yankees, and they still have a lineup that's really scary. I think if we somehow squeak out 3 games against the Twins, I'm going to be very excited. And so maybe a series win. And then, yeah, I'm right there with you with the 1 game against the Yankees at New York is a very important uh, part of that equation, whether you think it's a minor league ballpark or not. I think truly 1 game would be something to write home about. Um, the pitching matchups are, you know, just abysmal as ever for us. I know we're doing a bullpen game. The first game, it looks like, of the doubleheader on Tuesday. Brisky goes tomorrow. First game's a bullpen game, and then it's still TBD for the second game. And then we're TBD throughout the entirety. So you assume that obviously somewhere in there, Skubal goes, and then we don't have Skubal for the New York series, which at this point he's like the one that we can kind of count on to. Right, exactly. So yeah, so I would really like to see at least one from the Yankees, but every time we see the Twins, I always they look so gettable, and then we just go there and just absolutely fall on our faces. Oh, Carlos Correa. Any predictions for this week? Outside of the series of games, any things you're looking for?
I would say the biggest thing to keep an eye on this week is I hate like obviously we're going to keep a track of Green down in wherever he ends up being this week. I think that's a big thing to watch for this week. The other thing to kind of look out for, I think the Tigers sweep the doubleheader. I think that's what I'm going to predict here.
That was going to be mine.
Oh no,
that's okay. That's all right. I can come with
it. We didn't collaborate. We probably should have.
Yeah, no, I would also agree with that. I would love to. Obviously, that'd be a great day for Tigers baseball if we could somehow inch across 2 games. I would say, and it's just going to go right back to maybe a depressing note. We'll probably see a couple more injuries this week. I don't know who they're going to be. I'm not going to call out any names, but probably be at least one more injury out there. That is of note, I guess I should say too. Of note. Any closing thoughts, Josh?
I don't believe so. No, I think we're looking good for this week. A lot of Tigers baseball to digest, a lot to break down this next week. Hope everybody has a very happy and safe Memorial Day. Looking to watch a ton of baseball and just relax. So
absolutely. Where can they find us on the social medias?
We are at Old English D Pod on Twitter. And then I'm trying this week to get another podcast up on YouTube. I think we had a couple of views over there where you guys like to have that on there. And then I do have on Spotify, I have a kind of a question up. It's a way that for you guys to get involved and for you guys to respond. If you want to just leave us some kind of note, I have a question on there. It's whether you think that we should make this podcast longer every week, whether you think we should just shut up and stop talking and make it a little shorter. Whatever you guys think. If you just want to give us your thoughts on that, it's up on Spotify. We get to see it. We get to see the feedback on it. Makes it super easy. If you guys want to do that, we'd love to see the feedback. Other than that, I think that's it.
My close group of friends are absolutely laughing right now because they're like, Kasey Rose being quiet or like shutting up about anything ever once. I'm quite a belabored person, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like we're chiming these out like right just over an hour. And that for me seems like a sweet spot. Just because I know that I have podcasts that I listen to, and it seems like that seems to be where a good number is. But then there's also 4-hour podcasts that I listen to, and I absolutely love them. And then there's 30-minute podcasts that just are short and sweet, and they get to the point. I think somewhere in there is obviously the sweet spot, and we've kind of settled on an hour. So yeah, please let us know what you think. And I think if that's all we have to say, I think that's going to be all. Yeah, as Josh said, have a fantastic Memorial Day and a fantastic week of Tigers baseball. And as always, go Tigers.